Epstein's lawyers synopsized and quoted Trump as saying that that Jeffrey Epstein was not a member of his club at Mar-a-Lago, but he was a guest at Mar-a-Lago, and he had never been asked to leave. And that was redacted for...
There are 6 men, some of them with their photographs, that have been redacted, and there's no explanation why those people were redacted. And
can you share with us the name of the 6 men that you identified?
I probably should do that from the floor or in a committee hearing.
Our bigger concern is that there's still a lot that's redacted, even in what we're seeing. We're seeing redacted versions. I thought we were supposed to see the unredacted versions.
It's a lot to process. There's a lot of truly dark, disgusting, and disturbing material in those files.
Lawmakers are blasting the Justice Department left, right, and center over completely unnecessary redactions, including men's names, in newly released trench of files on convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Since February 9th, lawmakers have had access to unredacted copies of over 3 million pages released by the DOJ under the Epstein Files Transparency Act. After reviewing unredacted versions on February 9th, Representative Jamie Raskin questioned the omissions. Raskin claimed that he found many unnecessary redactions for baffling, mysterious reasons, and was troubled that victims' names were not properly withheld.
We didn't want to see any redactions of the names of co-conspirators, accomplices, enablers, abusers, rapists, simply to spare them potential embarrassment, political sensitivity, or disgrace of some kind. And yet, nonetheless, the Epstein file documents that were released are filled with redactions of names and information about people who clearly are not victims and may fall into that other category. So I went over there and I was able to determine, at least I believe, that there were tons of completely unnecessary redactions in addition to the failure to redact the names of victims, and so that's troubling to us. I saw one document which was an email that was sent by Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell, which was the forward of an email that he had received from some of his lawyers, giving an account of a conversation between Epstein lawyers and Trump lawyers and others about what had taken place during that 2009 period. It was during the period of the 2009 investigation. And Epstein's lawyers synopsized and quoted Trump as saying that that Jeffrey Epstein was not a member of his club at Mar-a-Lago, but he was a guest at Mar-a-Lago, and he had never been asked to leave. And that was redacted for some indeterminate, inscrutable reason.
Representatives Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna, who co-authored the Epstein Files Transparency Act, said they are worried some men's names were wrongly blacked out in the files, though it's unclear what their connection may be. Khanna also suggested the DOJ may have broadly blacked out women's names, without confirming whether they were victims, urging greater care in the redactions.
What I saw that bothered me were the names of at least 6 men that have been redacted that are likely incriminated by their inclusion in these files. So that's the first thing that I saw. It took some digging to find them. Then I'll let you talk about what you saw.
Well, and we discussed that. I mean, there are 6 men, some of them with their photographs, that have been redacted, and there's no explanation why those people were redacted. And Thomas discovered it through his MIT logic with some of the searches. But, you know, that's really concerning. I think there are 2 other points. One is some of the internet concern about some of the more sensational emails. And I do think it's important to recognize that some of the senders on that are women. And so some of the redactions may be appropriate, some may not be appropriate. We need to look at that. but just because there's an email out there, it doesn't mean that there's necessarily an improper redaction. The bigger concern is these 6 individuals. I will say that the staff was very professional in allowing us to do the searches. Our bigger concern is that there's still a lot that's redacted, even in what we're seeing. We're seeing redacted versions. I thought we were supposed to see the unredacted versions, and that's because the documents produced to justice from the FBI, from the grand jury, was redacted when they got it. So we kept doing the searches for the unredacted information. It's the identical redactions that they have.
There was one other thing that definitely needs to be addressed. Some of these files have been taken down, like the DOJ produced them, and for some reason they took them down. Maybe they decided that victims' names were in there and that they needed further redactions. But those documents not only haven't been put back up on the site with the appropriate redactions, they were not available to us to search. As far as I could tell, we couldn't search the documents that had been taken off the internet.
Can you share with us the name of the 6 men that you identified?
I probably should do that from the floor or in a committee hearing.
Lashing out at Massie's claims, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said DOJ, unredacted, well-known, retired CEO Les Wexner's name, as it already has appeared frequently in the files, and affirmed that nothing is being concealed. On February 11th, Democratic lawmaker Melanie Stansbury viewed the unredacted files and shared her opinion on her X account, calling the revelations so dark.
Hey everyone. Well, I just got back to the Capitol after spending the morning at the Department of Justice reading the Epstein Files, and it's a lot to process. There's a lot of truly dark, disgusting, and disturbing material in those files. And to understand the depths of depravity, I just can't even, there aren't words to describe what are in those files. But it's very clear that the United States government has failed to hold perpetrators accountable for decades in this case, with the original sin of failing to prosecute Jeffrey Epstein in 2006, when the FBI and the Department of Justice had the opportunity to, which allowed him to continue to abuse women across his properties and across the world. And it's so dark. It's so dark. A few things I want to say is that it's very clear the Department of Justice is covering up names of potential perpetrators and powerful people. As you're aware, Thomas Massie unmasked Sultan last night, and I can tell you that there is all kinds of disturbing correspondence between Jeffrey Epstein and various world leaders, including leaders from the Kremlin, involving conversations about women. There's a lot of redactions involving co-conspirators, many of which the FBI identified as assistants and people who worked for Jeffrey Epstein. Many of them were women. They were schedulers, assistants, but they were often the people that the survivors interacted with when they were brought in to be abused by Epstein and Maxwell and were paid by these individuals and scheduled, etc. I spent a fair amount of my time this morning looking at the files on Zorro Ranch. There's some dark stuff there. And I think it's really important that our colleagues, State House representatives, Mariana Anaya and Andrea Romero are conducting this truth commission because the FBI never did a full forensic investigation of the ranch property, and it's clear that crimes were committed there, and people knew about it. There were victims who went to the FBI, who went to law enforcement, and those crimes were never followed up on, and the ranch was sold from the estate before a full investigation could be done. So there's a lot of unanswered questions about Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, what went down there, why it was not fully investigated, why people were not held accountable. And frankly, as a New Mexican, to anyone who was hurt there, my heart goes out to you, and the miscarriage of justice in this case is just stunning, appalling, disgusting, and I'm sorry. I mean, just what happened to people in all of these places is just horrific. I also spent some of my time at DOJ looking at the lists of individuals who the FBI had received and investigated tips of sexual assault and violence on. Those are public documents. They're in the public domain. Donald Trump is on them, absolutely, 100%. There were multiple credible tips and corroborated tips provided to the FBI by survivors. And yeah, there's just a lot here. So more to be said about it, but that's my initial take on the whole thing. So I'll keep you guys up to date.